This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What if I told you that you could speak one-on-one with an individual who has attracted more than 8,000 backers and more than $500,000 in funding on Kickstarter? What would you say? Because today, that's actually what we're going to do. You're going to be a fly on the wall and you're going to hear directly from an incredible project creator who is just, they completely knocked it out of the park, I would say, with their campaign. Like, think about 8,000 people. That is a lot of people, man. That's a lot of customers. And some of the techniques and things that they're going to share, I hope is inspirational to you and also effective for you if you're looking to do your own crowdfunding campaign, because that's the goal with the entire episode or the entire, I guess, podcast in general, is to share with you people like him, people like other, successful creative types and entrepreneurs who are doing just that, and that you can copy that. You can copy their entire strategy. They are willing to open their playbook to you. And it's so generous, I think, of individuals and entrepreneurs to be able to do that. But also, like, this is an opportunity. You better take notes. I would recommend writing down a few different resources if any of the guests mention them, because this can literally supercharge your project. And I think it can be a great way to sort of get a little bit excited about this new launch for your campaign. Likely you might be already a little bit excited. You might be a little bit afraid or intimidated even. But I think that hearing some of these real world entrepreneurs, particularly that have come on the show, I think that can make a massive difference in the success of your crowdfunding campaign. And that's why I continue to do this podcast to this day with more than 200 guests that we've had on over the years. My name is Salvador Briggman. This is a labor of love and also something that I guess I am obsessive about. It's a healthy obsession. I just enjoy learning about consumer psychology and marketing and applying that and helping other people like you raise money with a crowdfunding campaign and connect with customers. It's my I guess my thing. Like, it's my superpower. It's what I love to do, and also the fact that I think it can make such a huge impact on other people. It's quite inspirational to me and something that makes me want to just wake up in the morning and want to help. It kind of makes me feel like, I guess, life is a little bit more meaningful when you are creating a positive experience for other people. I'm a big believer in like good karma and all of that. So when you put out good karma into the universe, I think it kind of returns the favor. So I always say, I think one of the most selfless things that you can do is start a business, because it's so hard, dude. It's so freaking hard to start a business from nothing, from scratch, to get a product together, to hire people, to put all of your finances and your reputation on the line to do this. And in addition, maybe for a year, really just going all in on this and maybe even sleeping not so much every single night in order to make this thing a reality. You gotta be passionate, you gotta be hungry, and you gotta be all in. So I think you're gonna like today's podcast episode. If you're interested in gaining access to my patented, my trademarked Kickstarter launch formula, you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link will take you to the Audible version of my book, which is also available on Amazon, the Kickstarter launch formula. And that Audible book is I think an easy way to get started, sort of filling your head with not only the strategy you're gonna have to use to be successful here, but also some of the resources that you can take advantage of. So the Kickstarter launch formula is a great place to get started. And a good, I think, accompaniment to this podcast, and that link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we are speaking with a hyper successful Kickstarter creator who has more than 6,000 backers they've already collected on the platform. 8 days to go with their project, which has raised over $350,000 in the tabletop game category. And this is also their first Kickstarter launch. They've learned a lot and they've come on the show to share that with you. Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Do you think we can get started and maybe you could give us a little bit of background? I know this is your first project you've created. You've been backing projects for a while now. It looks like you backed 39 thus far. Congrats. Can you give us a little bit of background on you?
Yeah, so I'm the one of the two owners of Smiteworks, and we make the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop. So that's my everyday day job for the last several years at least, and I've been a lifelong gamer. And, avid player of all sorts of games, video games, tabletop games, etc.
What kind of games do you guys produce?
So we, right now within Fantasy Grounds, it's exclusively role-playing games. And then we just have licenses with a number of different publishers for things like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, Starfinder, Call of Cthulhu, lots of other different types of role-playing games that we basically convert over, and we allow people to play that remotely and from anywhere across the world, or just to help them run the game in person, because there's lots of numbers and lots of stuff that you have to track from one game session to the next.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that? By run it remotely?
Yeah. So essentially, everybody, like one person acts as a game master, and they're the kind of like the DM, the environment master. Dungeon master. Yeah. Different game systems call it different things, but essentially, they have all of the campaign on their local system, and then they stream it in a peer-to-peer type fashion to players who connect. And so the players would then see their view of what the world looks like and what's been exposed to them so far, and they have their own character sheet that they can interact with. But it's all stored on the Dungeon Master's computer from session to session. So every week when they log in, or however frequently they play, they just connect back up and they resume their game and they keep playing, which is one of the things that I really always loved about role-playing games, is that it's not like a board game where you sit down and you play for 3 hours and then you're done. It's that constant carryover and companionship that you have with your fellow players as you're kind of exploring the world together.
Yeah,
and
yeah. And the story kind of continues to unveil there, and you have like twists and turns. And I remember very fondly in high school playing Dungeons and Dragons with some of my friends, and just like really late into the night, and like you make so many good friendships, you have so many good memories, and it's also pretty awesome,
Absolutely, yeah. I think the friendships that you make in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, they're almost always lifelong friendships, because you spend so much time playing with each other that from game to game and session to session, you'll play with people for months and months, or maybe years. I mean, there's a lot of people on our site that have used it, that their groups have been together for 20, 30 years, which is crazy. I mean,
that's insane.
We haven't been out that long. We've been out since 2004. So it's been, we've been around for a while, and I think that's part of what you're seeing as the success on our Kickstarter, is that we have people that we've that have been our fans and users of our software for a decade or more in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of users, it looks like, on your software there. So you guys started this a while back, Smiteworks, and then you kind of decided to launch a project on Kickstarter. Do you think you could share a little bit why, like kind of what went into that decision and why you decided to do that?
Yeah, I think Kickstarter is a complete game changer for me as far as...
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's basically just a way to reach so many people and to kind of get your project out there and in front of as many eyes as possible. And I love the concept of, which doesn't really apply as much to our particular project, but I love the concept of being able to kind of test the waters, so to speak, and do a partial investment on what your idea is, and then just to see, okay, is this going to resonate with the audience, and are they going to be as excited about this as I am? And then from that point on, you can decide, does it warrant further investment? And then if so, then you've got the investment from the backer. So to me, that whole concept, I'm a huge fan of what Kickstarter's doing, just in the gaming industry and elsewhere, even in tech and lots of other things is kind of where my interests lie.
So you've been backing a lot of projects as well, it looks like.
Yeah. I back probably the majority of mine are in gaming and in tech. And the tech ones are much more risky. So I have a tendency to sometimes think that, okay, well, I like the idea and the concept, but whether or not they can bring it across the finish line is always a question mark for me. So for my tech backing, I have got a couple of them that just petered out and didn't really ever come forward with stuff. But I've had other ones that have been fantastic, and I've been very pleased with what they've done. And I like being a backer and just saying, feeling like I'm a part of the process that brought it to market and helped someone realize their dream. To me is always super exciting.
Do you think that's helped you as you were putting together your first campaign by backing some of these? You kind of see like how communication is done, how backers respond to different products, how pages look. Like, do you think that helped you?
Absolutely. And we have a lot of our, business partners that we work with where we may have some of their products directly on our platform as well that we sell. And so we've seen their Kickstarter projects and we've kind of followed them and just seeing that, like you said, the amount of information they provide at the beginning and how communicative they are during the entire process. And a lot of times you can tell pretty early on if someone's not in there and they're not responding on a kind of regular fashion, not sending out updates and that sort of stuff. And that is kind of a warning flag for me. And I've noticed that on a lot of my, on a lot of mine, I've had a couple where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's not going to fund and I just won't back it if that's the case. So I've been pretty lucky. I've only had a couple that really have kind of fallen through. And I think it's just been because they've been super ambitious, or that's the other problem. Sometimes you can tell right away that, yeah, they're excited, but they're way too ambitious. So, we've had a lot of the same sort of pressure where people, we're delivering kind of what we have, and we're a software product. And so we kind of cross over into that techie side a little bit. So the risk are greater when you start pushing too hard as far as like what you're going to deliver.
Yes.
And so because,
it has to be believable that you can actually pull this thing off, and also with the funding that you're asking for. Because sometimes people will like claim outrageous, amazing things, but they're asking for such a low funding amount. It's like, really, can you really pull that off, for that?
Exactly. And there's a lot of just straight up unknowns about things when you're doing development. And so we've taken a very kind of conservative approach to, hey, this is what we're committing to deliver. We're extremely confident that we're going to be able to deliver all of the things that we have already shown and kind of, given you hints and previews on. And then anything else beyond that, yeah, it's nice. We want as much feedback as possible about what kind of stuff you'd like us to work on next. But the beauty of us being kind of a software product where we have a built-in update system, so we can always just add features later and it'll get picked up automatically and update. So but we have to be careful not to overcommit. Like, we don't want to say, yes, we're going to do all these crazy awesome things and then do streaming video and do all this other kind of stuff, because sometimes it seems like a little thing, but that might be, people might ask for us to have essentially what is Skype or
it compounds. It can
Google
quickly...
Hangouts built in. I'm like, those people have billions of dollars to spend. I'm not going to try to build
it can quickly get out of hand. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that early pre-launch phase is crucial to get feedback on the project. And also, I think if you're doing your first Kickstarter, it's really difficult to figure out pricing. Do you have any thoughts on that idea of setting a accurate price for your reward tiers and also getting feedback in those early stages?
Yeah, so one of the things that you have in Kickstarter is you have the ability to build out your entire page, and then you can share like a preview version of that with kind of trusted people that you have. And so the more that you can kind of get that out there, you can get some feedback. We have some feedback on a couple of our kind of higher end tiers that we thought, yeah, these may not really take hold too much. And we had a lot of internal debate about that. And it looks like those are the ones that are, the least selected. But it's always kind of good to have some kind of higher end tier as well, to where, you never know what people are wanting to do to help support your project. So I would say, even despite knowing that, I think it's always good to have tiers that are above what you think someone might even actually do, because people do surprise you quite often. There's a lot of people out there that are, they kind of have almost like an angel investor mentality, if you've ever been in a small business environment. And so, they're willing to help and do that sort of stuff, as long as you can give them a very personal touch, I think. But yeah, that URL that you get, I'm assuming, if you're like us and you've been out there for a while and you have existing fans and users, you probably have a pretty good idea of who your best supporters are. Maybe they're the people that are the most frequent commenters on your Facebook page, or maybe they're, if you have a forum type software, that, the people that are always on there and also helping out other users, that sort of stuff. So those are the kind of people that you really want to try to run by them also. But you also have to remember that they're also, if they're really a super fan, they're not going to be as critical maybe as someone who's not a super fan. So try to get a little bit of diversity in who you send the preview out to.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to skew sample.
Yeah. We could have priced, if we only listened to our super fans, we could have priced everything like twice as high, and they would have still bought it just because they love everything that we're doing with the software. But not everyone has that same kind of expectation. Yeah. And then you have new people that are completely like they've never heard of you at all before, and so they're only seeing kind of what you have out there on the page.
100%. It's kind of like putting yourself in the shoes of all these different types of potential backers and getting a sense of like, okay, they've never heard of me before. How are they going to view this? Versus these guys have been following me for, a year now. They're probably going to be really bought into this, like understanding the difference. One of the kind of things that surprised me was, you have a lot of backers here. Like you guys have over 6,000 backers for your project. Looking at some of your tiers here, I would think just like intuitively that more people would go for like a low price tier, like the $30 tier, which is a rookie upgrade ultimate. Mm-hmm. But you actually see like 2,000 backers at the veteran upgrade, which is $60. Yeah. Did any of these like selections surprise you at all?
Not entirely. We kind of thought that, at least with our particular platform, and especially looking at our existing user base, these are people that have been with us for at a minimum 2 years of being using our software, and so these people are what I would consider to be some of our super fans, our diehard fans, and so we thought we'd get a pretty good conversion rate of those folks that are wanting to kind of jump in and help us with this new version. And so it doesn't really surprise me that we see that sort of thing. And just looking at our existing customer base, a lot of people that come in to our system, role-playing games can get kind of expensive. It's a hobby, much more than like a normal video game might be, for instance. So it has kind of a hobby mentality. We're much smaller than, we're not like EA or, pumping out Star Wars Battlefront or something like that, which is very polished and has, amazing number of people building this fantastic software. I'm not saying that our software is even on par with that at all, but I'm saying it's not meant to be. It's like a different niche.
A different genre. Yeah. Different niche. Yeah. A lot of the times I'll talk to creators and they're like, oh man, I really wish I had done a limited quantity reward tier or something like that. Looking back, would you have changed anything about like the structure of your pricing at all or your rewards?
So I personally don't like limited tier, like early reward backer level type stuff, because I think it punishes people later on if you didn't find out about it until right away. Sometimes people feel so. You have the flip side. You have two sides of that coin. You have some people that say, "Oh, great, you rewarded us for being followers and being on top of it." You know what I mean? Like those people. But then you have the other side, which is the people that only find out about you later on, and then it makes them feel like they're getting punished. So whenever there's that, whenever you're getting, and we've seen that a little bit even with, we have a different tiers for our veteran level backers and our what we call our rookie level backers, and we've even seen a little bit of pushback on that. So, here we're thinking we're giving an extra benefit to people who just recently bought into Fantasy Grounds. But then we have some people who haven't just recently bought in. They feel like they're being punished because they didn't get that extra bonus. So I would say, at the end of the day, you have to be aware that you're never going to please 100% of the people. So you're going to get a little bit of someone's going to be upset over something, basically. And your goal is to just try to minimize that as much as possible, to try to explain your reasoning on why you made whatever decisions you made. And hopefully, that'll kind of carry through. In our case, we had some of our other users kind of help explain it for us and stuff, when someone gets,
when someone's unhappy or upset.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, I think that you have such an incredible fan base here. Like, you guys had a really big, strong existing community before going on Kickstarter. In terms of like the breakdown, what has it been in terms of percentage wise, like people discovering you from Kickstarter or Facebook or other sources versus your own like diehard community?
That's a good question. And I should have prepped this right beforehand, because this is one of the things that I kind of halfway expected. Yeah, we would have there. But I would say a large percentage, and I don't know the exact percentage. I would say at least 2/3 would be my guess. It's probably it might be higher than that. Are people who are existing fans that have kind of helped carry us forward, and then they've brought along a large number of kind of. I think when new people see that existing fans still follow you so much, I think it helps. Just because it's like a vote of confidence from people who really know the software. So to me, I think. Even though we see a larger number of existing fans than we do kind of new customers, we're still picking up a lot of new customers, for us at least.
Yeah, and I think it also says a lot in terms of your existing fans being able to rally around a project and, being able to participate in things like the stretch goals and get excited about it. And it's almost kind of like taking this virtual community where everyone loves to play games and stuff and kind of then giving them another way to bond over something new. And that's the creation of this new project. And, I think it's just kind of exciting seeing all these like unlocked stretch goals that you guys have and like seeing it go up and up and up. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, and having a network of people that you can reach out to is also helpful for doing stuff like stretch goals. So one of the things that I've seen on the number of projects that I've backed over the years is that sometimes those stretch goals can get companies in trouble because if they have to divert their existing resources that they were already planning on using to finish the main goal, then they end up delaying the final delivery date of the main project in order to add in all of these stretch goals. So I think if you look at the stretch goals, one of the things that we really tried hard to do is we try to pick the stretch goals that I could outsource in a sense. I want new artwork and that sort of stuff. And I've got a huge collection of people that I can reach out to do artwork. And I can factor that cost into the stretch goal, and I can, do all that sort of stuff. But I know that it's not going to take away my main developers who I need to do the other stuff that's already on the plate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And if you're also doing a physical product, being aware of how that will affect the cost. Obviously you have to think about the human resource cost kind of. And if my hardcore developers are working on finishing the game, I don't want them to also be worried about, creating all these other stretch goals that we promise people and thinking about like, how are you actually going to deliver those things? I think says a lot.
Absolutely. And then you also, I've seen a lot of stuff that I've got some physical things for delivered in projects that I've backed, and shipping costs are a huge factor for a lot of people that we work with. So especially when you're talking about international shipping. So a lot of times we have kind of like this USA focused, mentality of, of course, the majority of our customers are here, but that's not always the case. And something like Kickstarter is completely international. And so you have to factor that into the beginning, and you have customs and shipping. Those two things can be a lot more expensive than even the item that you're originally manufacturing and producing and shipping out. So that's something I've seen a lot of people get in trouble for. And we thought about, one of the things we really wanted to do is we have like a cool new t-shirt design that we wanted to have for fans to be able to back. But we ended up not including that as one of our major tiers. It's only in our very high end tiers where we're going to already be on site with people. And then, it's a very limited number. Because we didn't want to have to get into that shipping thing, both in the manpower required to ship it to all these different places, and just the extra,
the logistics
and complexity
the Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. I love to ask like questions about technique and strategy. And I do have a few more questions for you also on like the advertising front and different ways you've marketed. But one of the things I've been kind of curious about is if you have an established company, I think that morale building and team building is critical. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how did it feel from an internal perspective to see this launch and see you guys get so much positive reception? Like, what did that feel like for you and also your team?
Yeah, so for our team member, and that's a great point that you bring up. Our team has been working on a lot of this for actually years. in the background leading up to this point. And so to us, it's kind of a vindication of, okay, all of this work that you've already been putting into it. And then, from my marketing perspective, our graphic designer and marketing person, Jen Page, came in and helped, get the page looking really pretty and lots of the graphics and helping get the editing and all that sort of stuff ready to go. So this last 30 days leading up to it has been like crunch time for her. And so seeing all of these kind of things come together, it makes everybody, it does boost morale majorly. So we all sat around, we talked about having even a party, like a funding party. Let's
that'd be awesome.
And blow whistles or, whatever when it happens.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, it's one of those things where not only is it great validation, I think, but also then you have all these backers that are kind of rooting for you, and it's really cool to have that public aspect, and you're delivering something that people love. Actually, one of the questions I had for you was, it kind of seems from the outset almost like you have a dream job. You're able to work with board games creators and people that are enthusiastic about that, and it's almost like this, you would think of it being a hobby, but you've built a successful business around that. What kind of keeps you motivated doing this? Is it the community aspect? Is it that you like solving problems? What keeps you motivated?
I would think it's a little bit of both. I've been in the corporate world for much of my life and a consultant for much of my life, so I do enjoy the problem solving aspect, and I think that's something that if you're a business owner, you have to really like to solve problems because you're going to have a lot of them that need to be solved. And then I also beforehand I'd never done any business to consumer type activity. So I was always business to business was where most of my consulting was kind of focused. And so when I first started doing this kind of as a hobby, I bought this company from some people in 2009. The original creators were out in Finland. They had created it in 2004. So I bought it, and then I started doing, customer support emails because it was just me in the very, very beginning. And then it was me and John Gregory, the other owner, from 2010 on. And for a number of years, it was really just the two of us. And so we were dividing and covering all the forums, the support, all that sort of stuff, and making some small changes to the software kind of over time and trying to get licenses and that sort of thing. But I really kind of enjoy, even though can be repetitive and annoying at times, I actually enjoy interacting with people on the customer service side and doing emails. And even today, even though I've got someone that does that, I fill in for him when he's, unavailable, and, I'll take late, I'll hop on at night before I go to bed and check emails and help with some of that sort of stuff. And I really like that interaction with our users because it helps keep me grounded, and it kind of also helps keep me aware of, what are issues. If I keep hearing the same kind of questions over and over, then that means that's probably something we need to look at because something's not clear or could be done better or it's just a problem that we need to fix. So for me, I really like that kind of aspect of it. And then, of course, it being games, I love games.
Yeah, I think it also adds a little bit more meaning. I think it's great to be a consultant. We need lots of consultants and business people, in life and in society to solve problems, business to business kind of transactions. But when you're actually delivering something that people are using for fun and on an ongoing basis, it kind of creates a little bit more meaning, I think, also behind what it is you're doing a little bit.
Yeah, and I think when you look at customer service, and I've been, we've always been, all of us have been on the other side of the customer service thing where we've needed something from a company, like something didn't work, or I asked for a refund, or I'm just not happy about something, or I need help, or whatever the case is. We've always been on that opposite side, and we've seen how some companies react and some companies don't react in a way we would find favorable, and other ones are fantastic. So every opportunity that you have to talk with a customer is an opportunity to win them over for life, basically. And something like our system, especially, it's recurring. So there's always new adventures, and there's new things that are always kind of rolling out. So you really you want those super fans. And so you have an opportunity to make something really, really right for them. Even if they're walking away, they're going to remember that you gave them a refund, and then you made it as painless as possible so that they were able to try your software and then say, okay, well, it wasn't really what I was looking for. And that's fine. They can go on. But then, now we launched Fantasy Grounds Unity, and they may have had an interaction with us 5 years ago, but it was relatively pleasant from their perspective. They might reconsider and say, okay, well, what's changed? What's new about this software? They'll give us a second chance. Whereas if we were at all rude to them, then of course they wouldn't,
Totally. I think it shows a lot because, number one, you're the only virtual tabletop to ever receive an official license to carry a Dungeons and Dragons product, which is pretty awesome. You now have over 130,000 licensed users, which is insane. So I think it's really showing, man, all the work that you're doing. One of the questions I had for you is that you're obviously a business-minded guy, I think you bring a bit of like that sort of mindset and mentality. When it comes to doing things like advertising with your Kickstarter campaign and trying to track that and like which marketing strategy works best, do you have any thoughts on that for the audience?
Yeah, so one of the things I really liked about Kickstarter, and I sent some feedback into them because it's not apparent before you launch, but there's this thing called referrals. And so there's a way that once the project is actually fully live, you can create a referral link. And each one, you can tell who it's going to be. So, for instance, if it was this podcast and I said, hey, I wanted to, if you reached out to me and said, hey, I can help you promote your podcast or your Kickstarter project or whatever, I could give you a custom URL link. And then from that point on, I could track and see who all kind of came through that entire process. And so when you're going to get bombarded by people who are going to try to help you, reach a new audience that you maybe wouldn't reach before. And what that basically allows you to do is it allows you to say, okay, well, how much am I willing to pay for essentially distribution of our content out there? And you could come up with a percentage that makes sense for you and for your project. And you can say, okay, well, you can offer that to them and say, I'll give you, 10% or 15% of any money that comes through this URL link that you send out. Mm-hmm. And so that to me is a great way that you can kind of track that. And you can kind of make sure that you're getting your money worth. I love working in percentages because it incentivizes people to actually have an outcome and a goal that is in aligned with what you want to do, which is
for someone who's listening to what you just said is like, oh man, that sounds great. Like, how did you actually set that up?
Yeah, so basically you get a dashboard within Kickstarter once you launch your project. And then on your dashboard, there's a referrers section. And then you can create a custom referral tag. You just put in the label and you say generate tag. And then you give them that custom URL. And from that point on, it's fine. So for instance, we have a crowdfunding demystified custom URL.
Hey, yo.
Yeah. And so now I could go through and track, what's in that one. And then I had people like BackerKit reached out to us, and they're doing some advertising for us. And theirs is a little bit different because we're also doing Facebook advertising, which does have an extra cost above and beyond that. So we're kind of covering that cost. And then they talked to us about doing what kind of returns do you want to get from the investment. So, if you spend $2,000 in advertising, do you expect to get $4,000 back in backings? And, so, I mean, and you have to really, really be cautious about that kind of stuff, just because if you don't have margins for those things in there, or, you don't want all of your funding to come through that and then find out that you gave away 50% of your entire project. So,
yeah, that's true. What has your experience been like on the Facebook ad front there?
I have not had tremendous success with paid Facebook advertisements. What I've had better success with is organic growth on Facebook ads, which, of course, everybody loves to try to get organic growth also. But so a couple of little things that seemed like it helped us grow our numbers, and I'm sure we could probably still do much better than we do right now, but is, always including your Facebook URL information in your communications to people. So when they get a order receipt or, your customer service support emails, that sort of stuff, always have a link back to where that's always there. They have a higher chance to then go through and click and just follow you if they like you. Mm-hmm. And then putting it on newsletters, that sort of stuff as well. And then we've had some funny, it's really funny. We have this idea of doing, I hope I'm not giving away too many of my secrets here, but so we do some kind of funny memes. We have one person that creates all these like really kind of just funny, silly memes on Facebook, and then people kind of like that. and then once they like that, and it has to be, related to your product. So ours are all gaming related type memes. Yeah. But once they, if they like that thing, then they show up in your feed, and then you can ask and invite them to like your page also.
That's smart. That's smart.
That's a pretty good way. And to me, that has been so much more cost effective than paying for the straight up Facebook ads, which the straight up Facebook ads, if I remember correctly, a lot of times are around $1 per person that likes your page is kind of what it seems to run.
Yeah, understandable. For those listeners who are wondering about Facebook ads and those things, what do you think it costs, or what should they budget for having someone help with that kind of stuff?
It depends on how new they are to the whole process. I would just say that whoever you budget, make sure that you're engaged to the point to where you're going to learn from it, because that's going to be the best. And at that point, then that money goes a lot farther, because it's not just this immediate, like, okay, I just got this response and now I'm always dependent upon a consultant to help with that. At the end of the day, you're going to want to know that going forward so that you can do some more stuff on your own and use some sweat equity if you need to do that. So I would just say, factor it into your project. Maybe it's 10% of what you think your overall project will be if you're really new to it. And I would hesitate to go much over that, but make sure that they're teaching you, and say, hey, I'll do this, but I really want to kind of learn what I need to be doing myself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. Awesome, man. Well, this has been tons of great tips, advice, secrets, as you say. I really appreciate the time that you've spent here teaching a little bit and also sharing some of the things that have been working for you. Where can people go to find out about your project? It looks like it's live for the next 8 days. Where can they go and find out more information?
Yeah, just do a search for Fantasy Grounds Unity on Kickstarter, and you can find us there with lots of videos, and we'll be on comments and and everything else there.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave you to have the last word here, and I'd love it if you could either share a word of encouragement, a final tip, maybe something you wish you knew, or just something that you wanted to hear when you were kind of getting started with this whole process.
I would just say that don't give up. I followed a couple of different Kickstarter projects that one of them just recently funded again after initially launching and then canceling because it wasn't quite the right timing for the market. They weren't fully prepped. So I would just say everything that you do in here is going to be a learning experience. You're going to learn something new that you didn't learn before. So there are no real failures. There's just things that you learned didn't work. So just take that and move forward with it, and don't give up on your dream. If this is something that you want to see happen, make sure that it happens no matter what, and have fun during the process, because you're going to have ups and downs but it's a fun process in the end.
Doug, thank you for coming on the podcast. Looking forward to if you're going to do a next project, and I'm looking forward to also watching your success in the next 8 days.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.
Let me tell you about our latest sponsor, SendPro Online by Pitney Bowes. Shipping can be complex. Things can get really confusing really fast. With SendPro Online, it's easy to save time and money no matter what you send, from letters and packages to overnights and flats. You can easily compare USPS, UPS, and FedEx in an all-in-one online tool. You can print shipping labels and stamps directly from your printer. You can even track all of your shipments and get email notifications when they've arrived. SendPro Online is only $14.99 a month, and listeners can get a free 30-day trial when you visit pb.com/crowdcrux. That's pb.com/crowdcrux. Experience the convenience of SendPro Online for yourself when you sign up for a free 30-day trial. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, or Sal. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm passionate about crowdfunding. If you also want some more free education or free information, you can go and join my weekly newsletter at crowdcrux.com/subscribe. That is crowdcrux.com/subscribe. You can get up to date on some of the announcements that I have for you, as well as some of the free education and information. The other link I got for you is, if you have been listening to some of my podcasts, or you really connected with this one, and you're like, Sal, I would love to take advantage of some of the knowledge that you've accumulated over the last several years since 2012. And I would just love to have you look over my campaign, to give me feedback, to talk about the launch strategy, what you should be doing right, what you're not doing right, and also some of the resources maybe you can use with your project, get your feedback on maybe some of the other people I've talked with, or even learn about your own services and how I could make you a part of this project. If that sounds like you can always go to this link and you can schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me. So this coaching call is an hour-long intensive call where we get into, for your specific product in your category, what's going to be the best chance of success, and also for the amount that you're looking to raise, what kind of marketing strategy are you going to need in order to hit some of those milestones and some of those goals. I try to tailor my advice to you. I bring my A game. I try to give you homework action items so you know where to go going forward. I try to make it a really good experience. I've only had positive things that were said about any kind of coaching call that I've done with a student. So if you're interested in scheduling that call today, you can go to crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Crowdcrux.com/coaching will take you to a form. Just give me a bit of information about you, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP and set you up for success. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and it would mean so much, leaving a rating and review, anything like that is always appreciated. I love you, man, and I gotta talk to you later. I'll see you next time.